Hey everybody, a very beardy Kellen Nitro coming at you here on Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited. And I'm also bringing with me a by request episode. This is a by request Nitro Steak sent to us via Facebook by our buddy Nick Opalewski. And by the way, Nick, send me a phonetic pronunciation of your last name. I don't know if it's Opalewski or Opalewski or whatever, but friendly Nick sent us another request here for something to take a look at on the channel, and it's actually a pretty cool concept and a very interesting, I guess, marketing. It could also be its own gimmick table if it wanted to, but I'm decided to present it in the Nitro's Take light. Way back in the day when you physically had to go and rent movies from places like Five Star, Blockbuster Video, etc. Up here in Canada, we had Rogers Video as well. The WWF was the king of the monthly video releases. They would have something distributed mostly by Coliseum Video until about 97 or so when they switched to Kosh Home Video and kind of created their own WWF Home Video division. More on that at a later day. But they had monthly VHS releases that you could go and rent of either the big pay-per-view, one of the big five shows, or a compilation of your favorite wrestler, or what we're going to take a look at today was just a straight compilation of matches. These started in the 80s with Coliseum Video and the Best of the WWF series, and continued into the 90s with the WWF Supertape series. And today we are going to take a look at the second of the Supertapes, Supertape Volume 2. But I have with me right now in my hand a copy, as I creep it into frame, of Supertape Volume 3. This was the tape that immediately came after the tape that we're reviewing on this edition of Nitro's Take. But if you take a look at it, it's kind of the presentation for these super tapes really didn't change throughout the years. A full glossy photo. This is one of those extended slipcases, as you can tell by the extender bit right here. This one's been a little beat up because it's I bought it as a former rental way back in the day and such, so I have no idea what the condition of this tape was before then or whatever. But as you can tell, it had a little extender there, so it would stand out and kind of pop to the customer in the video rental store. And of course, the tape would be in one of these hard cases in the back. And so you would just, let's see if we can slide this out. If it wants to come out today. Nope, doesn't want to. It's I don't want to say it's firmly established in there, but there is a cassette in there. But I just don't want to rip and tear and try to force it out. But and then on the back would be a small kind of summary of matches and that stuff. Not so much like a match card, but what you'd get normally as a kind of a match summary on what's on the tape. And these super tapes pretty much followed the same formula for the first 5 or 6 of them, where you'd have over 2 hours of footage. Well, this one kind of clocks in at about 2:09, the one that we're looking at today. I can't remember how long this one is. Probably about 2:10 or so. I'm due to watch this one after I'm done recording this, so watch my Twitter for updates, I guess. And there's a pre-produced feature. These were mostly done in the early days of the home video department and that stuff of WWE. Of course, when Tony Schiavone was there, he was kind of the executive producer of all this stuff. And then after he left to go back to WCW, Bruce Pritchard kind of took all that over, as it's an all-encompassing kind of television and home video department. A pre-produced feature, profile on a tag team or a wrestler or a manager, what they would consider a fan favorite match, where they actually had people write to an address and send in a match that they had already pre-taped on one of their television tapings and that stuff, and so you got it with a different commentary track. What they would consider a Coliseum Video exclusive, so something that was a dark match at a television taping that they taped just for this reason, and they would have the Coliseum Video banners and that stuff. And then the Call of the Action segment, which was hosted by Lord Alfred Hayes, where he would take a wrestler's moveset in the ring and kind of slow down a sequence and kind of do the old freeze frame bit and be like, oh, that's a body slam. Oh, that's an arm drag. Oh, stuff like that. Like, kind of explain to the viewer what they're watching. So, anyways, we take a look at Supertape Volume 3 just to kind of give you an idea of what these things look like on the shelf and that stuff. WWE Network, over the past year or so, has dumped the entire library of Best of WWF and Supertapes onto their service. So if you go into the on-demand and click into it and kind of search around, they're there. So again, this is Supertape Volume 2, my Nitro Steak. Thanks for sticking with me for the preamble here. But I just kind of wanted to give you guys some context of what we're taking a look at today and what Nick has ultimately suggested that we review and take a look at it. So this is a very interesting piece, so let's get to it. So sadly, as most of the archival content goes on the WWE Network, the original music is dubbed, so you can't hear half of Mooney's intro, but they're doing a gag where when Mooney says the term super tape, there's a big giant ominous voice going out going super tape, like that. At the end of the tape, it's revealed to be kind of a stab at the Wizard of Oz and the big floating head, and then pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, and it's some audio tech who's just been screwing with him all show. So it's a joke that got unfunny about 5 or 10 seconds into the tape, and they just keep milking it throughout the entire tape. A lot of sports programs will do this, and this was sadly par for the course for a lot of home video and home video content back in the day. It kind of followed along the same lines because these people were used to making live television. Home video market, you can't really treat like live television, and when you're cranking out essentially a best of every month of matches that you shot live or what have you, whatever, it kind of gets monotonous in the production office after a while. So thankfully the subsequent super tapes actually followed the theme, and they had little barbs and more funnier jokes and that stuff. I mean, I think this one was super tape free. It might be even WrestleFest 90, I can't remember, but there was one where Mooney and Lord Alfred Hayes were piloting a jet around, like a fighter jet, and that was really funny. So I like I said, I can't remember the exact title of which one it was. It might, like I said, be even on that Super Tape Volume 3. But again, back to Volume 2. So Sean Mooney at the desk runs down the card, and this tape is actually stacked, and we open up with the Macho King, Randy Savage, taking on Hacksaw Jim Duggan. The record date on this is from the January 27th, 1990 episode of Saturday Night's Main Event. So this is kind of cool because it kind of falls into the time period or the timeline of the current year that I'm in right now, 2020, recording this. As I'm recording this the final week of February of 2020, and this is just over 30 years ago now, on Saturday Night's Main Event. This match is presented by WWF Magazine. That's another thing too. These super tapes would have at least one match that was presented by WWF Magazine. Sherry, of course, is in Savage's corner, which I think is one of the best all-time heel pairings. It's top 5 in my book of manager and wrestler. The match starts hot with Duggan dumping the sedan of Savage a good 30 years before Roman Reigns would do the same to King Corbin on SmackDown. So, yes, folks, if you need proof that they are recycling old stuff from 30 years ago, look no further. They are. Sherry tries to get involved, but ends up clotheslining Savage on the outside in a distraction spot. That was something that was kind of common with the two of them throughout that time, where they were just starting to maybe tease a little bit of dissension between the two of them, even in this early stage, even a full year out from WrestleMania 7. A huge flying knee by Hacksaw, and only gets a 2 after that little kerfuffle. Savage is basically ragdolling for Duggan in this match, and Duggan just looks like $1 million. Like, he looks like Goldberg in this thing. It's incredible. Sherry hands Savage a purse, allowing Savage to clock Duggan, but for only 2, and the joke is made on commentary that Duggan has a hard head, and that's why he was able to survive that. Duggan catches Savage in a roll-up, only 2. Duggan goes for the 3-point stance and clotheslines Savage out of the ring to set up the finish. And it's a carbon copy right down to the manager holding the foot, below the apron almost, of the WrestleMania 5 Warrior Rude Intercontinental title finish. Sherry grabs Duggan's leg, allowing Savage to grab the free off of a suplex attempt, which is turned into a crossbody essentially. And the Macho King Randy Savage is victorious. Post-match, Duggan hits Savage with the 2x4. This was a very ballistic opener. So the runtime for the opener, 9 minutes and 14 seconds, with Savage getting the heel victory. We did go into a Rockers profile that's been kind of teased off the beginning of the tape. Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. It kind of opens up with a montage of their theme music and the Rockers hitting all their double team moves and that stuff. We didn't go into a Rockers profile that has been teased off the top of the show, and the next shot after the montage with the theme music and the Rockers hitting all their double team moves and that stuff is Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty giving us kind of a promo teasing what we're about to see here. And the first match is from MSG. And it's the Rockers versus Mr. Fuji's Powers of Pain, the Warlord and the Barbarian. Oh, yes. This match is from the January 15th, 1990 MSG card that was broadcast on the MSG network. Gorilla Monsoon and Hillbilly Jim are in the commentary booth. And there's already an eye-opening moment about 6 minutes into the match. Warlord nailing a powerbomb in 1989 on Marty Jannetty. Wow. Jannetty takes some sick bumps here, and it's a great pop when he hits the powerbomb too. The MS3 crowd, just their eyes, their head, it's a great bump. And yeah, I have written down Jannetty takes some sick bumps here. He does. The assault on Jannetty continues with Fuji and Warlord attacking Jannetty with the cane outside the ring. Barbarian, though, misses the second rope elbow drop, allowing Jannetty to finally tag in Michaels. And that allows the Rockers just to hit double team after double team after double team. The finish of the match, Michaels is a house of fire until Fuji grabs Shawn's leg, allowing Barbarian to splash him and get the 1-2 free. So the runtime on this one was just a shade under 10 minutes at 9:59. After the match, the Rockers try gaining advantage, but Jannetty kind of takes a crab kicking for it. And, they get help to the back. This match was actually surprisingly really, really good. I did enjoy it. Some of the post-match shenanigans include Fuji is victim of a double drop kick and the Powers of Pain attack Jannetty. Michaels comes in for the save, and Michaels helps Marty to the back. We did do a hot transition to see the Rockers take on Dino Bravo and Greg Valentine. And this match, from this one, let's looking at my notes here, is from the July 3rd, 1989 episode of Primetime Wrestling. So, essentially, the brand new Dream Team, well, they were just a new Dream Team of Bravo and Valentine, were established right after WrestleMania 3 in 87. This doesn't involve Johnny Vito as their manager. This is Jimmy Hart sans sunglasses and megaphone. So I don't know what had happened earlier on in the episode or in the taping to cause him to not have a megaphone or sunglasses at ringside. But you see Jimmy Hart in the fleur-de-lis kind of suit outfit that he had for all of Dino Bravo and Earthquake's matches and that stuff at that era. But without the sunglasses and without the megaphone, which is kind of a different look for him. It was kind of a little bit of a head scratcher here. We go back to Sean Mooney and Alfred Hayes on commentary. The match starts off slow until the Rockers execute more double teams and double drop kicks, etc. I have down weird to see Jimmy without the megaphone here. Yeah, the match itself taped in Rochester. There's the location right there. I have it written down. It's taped in Rochester, New York. The finish, the ref is distracted by Hart, allowing Bravo and Valentine to hit a double team clothesline 1-2 free. But then Ronnie Garvin comes in. Don't forget, this is middle 89, so this is leading up to the big blow-off at SummerSlam 89 and the rest of the year between Valentine and Garvin, one of the B feuds that WWE had at the time and one of the crappy B feuds that WWE had at the time as well. Ronnie Garvin comes in referee garb because he was an official at that time, and he reverses the decision for the Rockers because he saw what happened in the back on the TV. So All's well that ends well there. And that kind of wraps the superstar profile or tag team profile portion of the Super Tape. And we go back to Sean, who froze to a match that was a fan-requested match. They used to do these, and I explained off the top how it was. They would flash the P.O. Box address up on top, and you would send in postcards and say, "Hi, my name is so-and-so. I am a huge fan. Can I see Hercules versus Akeem?" And then they would read it out on the tape. So on promo day, or whenever they would record promos, they would record a separate promo, kind of personalizing it to the tape and for the individual who had requested this match. I didn't write down who requested this match, but they were from Hawaii, and so there were a lot of Hawaiian references in the promo and so on and so forth. It was kind of really cool to kind of cater to the fans in that fashion. Of course, nowadays it would be cheeseball as all hell, but at least they were trying back then. This match was a short one, thankfully. It's 5 minutes and 11 seconds. It's two big, huge, lumbering super heavyweights kind of bulldozing around a ring, basically. It wasn't a great bout at all. It's one of the worst bouts on the tape. But the character development was slick during this, and that stuff is incredible. So he is up to his heel antics here and pulls the top rope down as Herc falls out of the ring for the DQ. And post-match, Hercules slams Akeem to a mild pop. This match obviously was either on the front end of the night and everybody hadn't seen Hulk Hogan yet, or this was after Hogan had wrestled on the card and they were towards the end of it, and this is on the upteen hours of television tapings that they used to do with these things all the time. And looking at it, I was looking at one for my hometown back in 1991 here a few weeks back, and there was probably about 6 hours worth of action being taped. I can only imagine what the crowd was like after hour 4. You think a 6-hour WrestleMania is bad? Yikes. It's time for the Quality Action segment with Lord Alfred Hayes, featuring the Orient Express in act, who will be involved in the next match on the tape, which is Demolition versus the Orient Express from Madison Square Garden. It is what it is. I explained to you guys what this was at the beginning. This isn't the Bad Company iteration of the Orient Express, i.e. Diamond and Tanaka. This is Sato and Tanaka. And the earlier kind of iteration of it, it's a very kind of whatever Philly type segment is what I call it. The jobber in the ring that's kind of getting beat around in this segment suspiciously looks like Paul Van Dale. Now, if that name kind of rings a bell to you, it's Carmella's dad. And if you remember all of the profiles in the past few years on Carmella that they show on the network and prior to pay-per-views and stuff like that, they kind of allude that she is a second-generation wrestling talent. Well, this is her father, Paul Van Dale. He was a kind of a big deal in the Northeastern Indies for the early 90s at least, and did do some WWF, WWE, and WCW enhancement work during that time. And I would love to, I gotta go down a YouTube hole one day and just seek out more of his work, because he seems like just a prototypical wrestler at the time, not overly steroided up or anything like that, but a big dude who can move and do some power moves. So now we talk about Orient Express versus Demolition. This is from the MSG taping on March 19th, 1990. They are hyping WrestleMania 6 like nobody's business and blatantly ignore that a team has won the tag titles on 3 occasions, which I thought was really funny. And going to the match itself, this is, like I said, only a couple weeks from Mania 6. I have down this is best match of the tape so far. Yeah, the matches progressively start to get better from this point out. Hot crowd loves Demolition. They hate the Orient Express, which is what you want. Fuji gets involved as Smash gets tossed outside by Tanaka, and Fuji uses the cane. Lord Alfred puts over how resourceful Japanese men are because Britain faced them in a couple of world wars. Yes, quite awkward. Demolition goes for the demolition decapitation, but Fuji interferes again. Sato throws salt into Smash's eyes. The ref sees it and DQs the Orient Express. Demolition wins. Match is 10:57. Actually, on the article that I'm looking at, by the way, credit to the wrestling site, dawrestlingsite.com. They've done flashback reviews on all of the super tapes that are up on the network. So if you want to see what you're hearing here in text form, go visit them. They have down a countout victory. I think it's a disqualification, though. I'm pretty sure I hear the ref say DQ during this thing at 10:57. Regardless, it's a victory for... Well, he's got down the countout victory for the Express at 10:57. We'll go with his and say it's a countout victory for the Orient Express at 10:57. I thought it was a disqualification victory for Demolition myself in my notes that I wrote down, but I'm going to bow towards the superior service. So, next match is a doozy. Bret the Hitman Hart taking on the model Rick Martel, again from MSG, again from the March 19th, 1990 card. This match does seem a little odd since Bret was back to the tag team ranks at this point. Anvil had come back. Although the Foundation weren't really doing anything until after WrestleMania. Don't forget, they have the squash match with the Bolsheviks at WrestleMania in front of a home country crowd, not hometown crowd, but they were known in Toronto big time and got a huge pop by the Canadian public. One of the loudest pops of the night in the squash match against the Bolsheviks. So this is a fine technical match between two technicians. Heel Rick Martel is the best Rick Martel in my opinion. All of Bret's greatest hits here. These gets the backslide for 2, and of course the backbreaker with the knee, the second rope knee drop, or the second rope elbow drop, I should say, the Russian leg sweep, and so on and so forth. Everything with the exception of the sharpshooter you see in this match. Hart tossed to the outside. Martel takes advantage. High vertical suplex by Martel for 2. Hitman comes back with a sensational barrage of moves. Backbreaker for 2. High vertical suplex. Both men brawl to the outside, and while the count goes on, the time limit expires. So this was a time limit draw, is a decision. Post-match, Martel commences a beatdown, and Bret Hart clotheslines him out, and we end with Hart's music playing and him doing his hey pose in the ring. So the bell rings at 11:43 for a time limit draw. So obviously this was a either 10-minute time limit or 15-minute time limit that they just really shortened the time on. So good old MSG matches from back in the day. But this was, you want to see two technicians go at it, this is the match for you. This was sensational. Get a manager's profile next with the Doctor of Style, Slick. Needs more Jive So Bro. Never can get enough Jive So Bro. A great promo by Slick, and really leads to nowhere. They should have put this before the Akeem. I almost think there was a production error here because they should have put this before the Akeem Hercules thing, because Akeem was one of the clients of Slick. I mean, really. Kind of out of place here at this point. Next match was the infamous steel cage encounter from MSG in the fall of '89. It's been featured on a couple of DVD sets in the past few years. Rowdy Roddy Piper taking on Ravishing Rick Rude, and Ricky Rude's got Bobby Heenan, of course, in his corner. Now, this was the build-up on Primetime Wrestling and the host segments and all of the great promo work and the Halloween segment, and you name it from front to back throughout the fall of 1989. One of my favorite creative programs I've ever seen from WWE. If you haven't seen this stuff, the All Out of Bubblegum YouTube channel is your best friend, as they have all of these segments kind of condensed with just the host segments involved. It's a fun 3 or 4 hour watch, just watching all of those. Or you can check out those line of episodes on it as they are now available on the network. They just recently got uploaded on the network. So either way, they are fine watches. It's one of my all-time favorite WWF creative programs I've seen. It's just, these guys are just tooth and nail going at it with each other. So it's amazing. This is from the December 28th, 1989 card at Madison Square Garden. Of course, this is all to help reestablish Rowdy Roddy Piper, as he is coming back from the first of many retirements throughout his career back to the WWE. And Ravishing Rick Rude, of course, is trying to reestablish himself after losing the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam to the Ultimate Warrior. And of course, Warrior and Rude would go on to have one more real tilt at each other in 1990 for the WWF Championship before Rude would leave the company. So this is, creative mid-card stuff that they were building. They were positioning these guys on the mid-card. I don't want to say in an intercontinental title-esque feud at this point, but if they had control over the U.S. title at that point, this probably would have been the feud for it at that time. I know that that's an NWA thing at this point, but win by pinfall, escape, or submission. I've never seen this ref before in anything. He looks like Wolfman Jack. This is a strange ref to me. I haven't seen him in anything before or since. So I'll have to take a look and see if I can find him again somewhere down the line. Rude busted open early. And this one actually had the feeling of a Crockett cage match a bit. It was hard hitting. This one kind of felt like a Starrcade match. These two fight all over the cage. There's a hard fought spot over escape from the cage on the very top. Both men fight to the top of the cage and are exchanging shots. And then both men hit the floor at the exact same time. The officials ruled that the match must continue. And so they restart it. Rude hits a knee drop from the top of the cage. Wow. Wow. And there's even an audible just pop from the crowd, just ooh, like that. Only two, though. Heenan hands Rude some brass knucks, but Piper intercepts them and then uses them. And then Piper escapes the cage, and for a second, Rude's music plays. Eventually, Piper's music kicks in, and they quickly transition into a blooper segment of all things. The match time is 12:56. It's bloopers time, courtesy of Coliseum Video. Most of this stuff isn't bloopers, but funny and some unfunny bits. Of course, we see the Monsoon Bobby Heenan Busch Gardens stuff. Clips of Heenan invading a Western movie being filmed. These aren't so much production bloopers as they are just funny moments from primetime wrestling. We also see the clips from the Beefcake Genius match, where Genius wore the wig that kept falling off, and then Brutus wins the match over to Genius and starts getting the wig and that stuff, which is kind of cool. You get to see that transition because it's main event time right after this, and it's the final match on the tape. It's Hulk Hogan and Brutus Beefcake, yes, the Mega Maniacs, taking on Mr. Perfect and the Genius from the February 19th, 1990 card held at Madison Square Garden. So this is the newest match on the tape, the latest match on the tape. And yeah, I got written down. It's the Mega Maniacs a good few years before Mania 9. Gorilla, Heenan, and Hillbilly on commentary. Brutus gets a 2 count off of a high knee on Perfect. Hogan takes control but is waffled by Perfect using the Genius to scroll. Genius goes for a moonsault, but Hogan gets his knee up, allows Hogan to tag out to Brutus. The crowd is kind of meh at this point. Genius hits Beefcake again with the scroll, allowing Perfect to hit the Perfect Plex, but only gets a 2 count off of that. They schmoz. Hogan, big leg on Genius, 1-2 free, and post-match Genius gets his haircut again. Genius is rocking a really weird kind of semi-mulleted kind of reverse Caesar deal in this thing. But this is Lanny Poffo at his heelish best in the company, at his heelish peak, as both Poffo brothers were heels at this time. And, it's worth watching for that. And then we get the little bit where Sean figures out who's been yelling Supertape the entire tape behind the curtain. So they make the Wizard of Oz gag. And then they fade to black for a runtime of 2 hours and 9 minutes. End show. So I have a big note at the bottom. No Ultimate Warrior match on this at all. Very interesting. Yes, Ultimate Warrior nor Jake the Snake is featured anywhere on this tape. You don't see anything from Ultimate Warrior, and you don't see anything from Jake the Snake, and you don't see also anything from Ted DiBiase as well. That's a big, free, notable omission from this tape, and because of that, I think that this tape kind of suffers a little bit. Not so much because of Warrior, but with no Jake and DiBiase thing that was red hot at the time on this tape at all. We don't, it's really just kind of, it falls flat. So out of 10, I'm going to give this tape a 6.5 out of 10. The cage match is awesome. If you're a Hogan fan, the main event is cool. Hart Martel is fun, but other than that, it's really just something to entertain the kids for 2 hours. It's still better than Raw is today, mind you, or any episode of SmackDown. But yeah, it's nothing overtly special. And because there's no Warrior match with Hogan, that's where it lacks. So, anyways, thanks a lot for the request, Nick. And if you have a request for some content that I should review on Nitro Steak, please let me know. Quick heads up, I will be changing the process for that, so stay tuned for an announcement on that in the coming weeks and months. Looking at potentially making it a Patreon-based thing. Ooh, details forthcoming, yes. Anyways, I'm Kellen Nitro. Later days, happy wrestling watching, and we will see you next time on Nitro Maniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited.